Blazing the steel. Bring the heat. Mix it non-stop. Non-stop. With the hottest DJ.
I'm your host, Joshua Diaz.
Non-stop.
There is no investigation. This boy has...
God, really? This to me.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
But I had to put her on the side and where
I'm gonna do what I gotta do for me and my boys and my kids.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
There is no investigation. This boy has...
God, really? This to me. Right. Idiot.
I've done my best. It's hard, it's real tough.
But I had to put her on the side and worry about the boys.
I'm gonna do what I gotta do for me and my boys and my kids.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
Live from the NBD Production Studios, you're in the lab with your host, Joshua Diaz.
There is no investigation. This boy has...
God, really? This to me.
What's up?
But I had to put her on the side and worry about the boys. But I had to...
There is no investigation.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
Thank you, Bubba, for that. Don't say any F's and stuff.
But I had to put her... But I had to put her on the side
What?
and worry about the boys.
Is up, everybody. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. You're listening to The Lab, and I am your host, Joshua Diaz. You guys, I got a great show for you tonight. I never, ever say that. I always say this is going to be a mediocre to mid-level show, and I always accurately perform. And you guys know that, You know that. I tell you what to expect. I tell you what to expect, and then I deliver upon that promise. And tonight we have a great show. Okay, it's going to be a good show. The call-in number is 858-299-2504. Just kidding. Tonight is going to be a fantastic show. I'm very excited to discuss this these thoughts and this Greek life aspect of this case. It is so interesting when all you ever have to do is just take a little look-ski around. And, something that I had been just kind of sleeping on in this show. And sorry, I have no opening monologue tonight, that no toilets have been clogged and no dogs have done the unthinkable. I did get a Christmas card from Coy and his Coy wife. I'll share that with you another time. I haven't seen Coy in a while. Hope his fins are straight. So let's just talk about the fraternity aspect. I genuinely was like, what is going on in the town of Moscow? Like, what goes on there? And I came up with a big nothing. Nothing goes on in Moscow. It's a university sleepy town. We know that. That's riddled with fraternities and sororities. Okay. It is legitimately they say like 20 or 30% of the student population is fraternities and sororities. Now, as I'm thinking about this, and I know that there have been people on this trail and kind of following the fraternity aspect of this, but one of the things that I've always found interesting is, and doesn't really get talked about much anymore, is the fact of the undefined timeline of the fraternity party. Okay. And whenever I kind of think about that, I go, okay, so I know that there's, it's a college town. Like if you've ever been to a college town, they're unique it's literally ran by kids or, young adults that are completely just love to party. They have some structure in their life. They do what they're supposed to do, but fraternities and sororities are all about hazing and brotherhood and sisterhood and kind of pledging. And I was never in a fraternity. I don't even know if I've been to a frat party. I probably have. Didn't even notice probably, but and so Ethan and Xana are at the Sigma Chi house, which I always, was like, it's just right down the street, meaning like half a block away. That's it. It's just half a block away. And I'm thinking, I already know that frats and sororities have bad reputations. They just do. They just have terrible, it's just strange. You know what I mean? And the one person that I have seen kind of covering this, and she's braver than I am because there's a whole list of 4chan and Reddit stuff that I came across and was completely fascinated by, but I have no way to know if any of that is real. But I do know from dealing with these things in the past that it's kind of it's really hit and miss. It's really hit and miss. You don't know. But some things seem so detailed that you're going, well, goodness, that's a lot of detail. How would somebody know that? They're saying that these things have been simmering. This is just, from the psychotic stuff that I've read online, that these things have been brewing since Fall Rush. Matter of fact, I just figured out what Rush was just recently. Like, when I say recently, I'm talking like an hour and a half ago. I didn't even know what Rush was. I read some of that. I don't know. I didn't think about it. I don't care about, learning about fraternities. I've seen Animal House, and that's about as far as it goes. But there's nothing going on in this town. There is nothing going on in this town but fraternity life. That's what's going on. That's it. Now, obviously, not just fraternity life, but you got the college, you got this sleepy little town, and then you just got, and I wasn't even going to go with this guy, this Ian or whatever his name is, and I don't have a problem putting his name or saying his name because he's the one that has just been giving the weirdest interviews you've ever seen in your life, making himself look suspicious when he probably has nothing to do with it. But I'm sure there are people out there, and rightfully so, think that he does have something to do with it because he says stupid stuff. Like I saw a post by this guy where, he takes a picture of a white Hyundai Elantra going, "Oh my God, the killer's following me." And you're like, this guy lived down the street from them. He's not in college, but he lives in the middle of 3 frat houses. What? Why would you do that? That's kind of weird. You're 30, So, I took a trip down that rabbit hole. I really did. And it's very, very interesting. It's also very dark. I mean, good Lord. 4chan is, please don't go there. I just don't. It's like, oh my God. It's bad. It's really bad. But, so I'm looking at the fraternity issues. Sigma Chi specifically. So there's a Sigma Chi chapter. These are national fraternities, and what you're going to find out tonight as we go through this is I'm going to go through a few different articles and situations, including the current one going on right now, the quadruple murders, okay, is that they don't talk about anything. Not a thing. Going back, I found an article from 1996 called "The Party's Over" on University of Idaho's Greek Row. The party's over. It's over. They've been dealing with these fraternities and sororities in this specific town. They have issues with them all the time. Constantly. And once you're in, but it's hard to get in. They make you go through hell, for lack of a better term. They make you do harmful things. Now, I'm not saying that this is a hazing event or that this is specifically fraternity related, but with any sort of program or group or club, if you've ever seen Sons of Anarchy, it's a brotherhood, it's a sisterhood. It is. And the one thing that comes to mind is 3 out of the 4 victims were in either sororities or fraternities. 3 out of 4 of them. 3 out of 4. That is weird. That is weird, okay? Now, it's not weird that they're in fraternities, but it's weird that 3, and 2 different sororities, by the way. Well, one's a fraternity, one's a sorority. Shocker, right? And the powers that be have been trying to shut down fraternities for years, but they can't. It's almost like, and I don't know who believes in what, but I'll tell you this, it's kind of like Skull and Bones and the Freemasons. Fraternities are weird. They're weird. And I know that a lot of people's experience with fraternities was positive and good and sense of brotherhood and beer drinking and whatever. Experimenting with drugs or, I don't know. I've known some people that have been in frats. But But, you know, you're like, okay. So it's a club, man. It's an exclusive club to get into and to be a part of. And they have the best parties. They have, like, you know, they can, kegs show up for, wait, can you, okay, sorry. I thought I cut out for a second. Kegs miraculously show up. There's constant police. Police get so sick of going to these houses. They're just over it. But you know what? Let's go ahead and I'm going to take kind of got a packed show. We're going to move along here. I'll get to calls 858-299-2504. All right. So this article right here is a good one. Let me see. This is David Johnson, and what site is this again? IamTribune.com. The party's over on UI's Greek Row University fraternity university. Fraternity alum won't take no for an answer. Frats. Moscow. This is from 1996. The University of Idaho Tuesday served notice that fraternities will be expected to establish alcohol policies and practices by January 1st that conform with state law. University of Idaho Greek Alum Association also is recommending the fraternities go a step further, because I'm sure that they'd really be willing to just do that. Go a step further. And become alcohol free by the deadline. This is going back. You know, this is going way. This hits the way back machine. Student leaders on Greek Row, meanwhile, have postponed a Saturday public forum on the so-called dry issue to explore options. But University of Idaho Greek advisor Chris Wutrich said the time for talk is waning. The university is not going to debate with students, he said. The ball's in their court, and the shot clock is ticking. If the fraternities don't take action, Wutrich said, University of Idaho will. We are not going to wait to see what the students come up with. Oh, no, we're going to wait to see what the students come up with. Before we take the next step to ensure compliance with the law. The edict comes amid stalled talks between fraternity and sorority presidents who met last Saturday to review a proposal that would have banned alcohol at fraternity parties. Good luck. 1996, okay? We're going to go over our options, said Jeff Curtis, president of the Sigma Chi Alpha Epsilon fraternity. We're going to go over our options. They have spokespeople. Sunday's meeting was attended by representatives from all 7 University of Idaho sororities and 11 of the school's 19 fraternities. This is 1996. You have 7 sororities and 19 fraternities. 11 of them showed up. Okay. What the students come up with, they didn't come up with anything. 2 weeks ago, on Monday, UA President Robert Hoover acknowledged the problems associated with underage drinking, not just for fraternities and sororities, but society in general. He lauded students for seeking a remedy. 2 weeks ago, Woodridge predicted UA's Greek community would come to a vote by the end of October on a proposal to accept an alcohol policy similar to the school's dormitories. In some dorms, students who are 21 or older are allowed to have alcohol in their private rooms. Let's see. Wuthrich said Greek chapters have little option other than to adhere to state law. Many fraternity houses now have policies that allow for drinking only by those 21 and over, but in practice, Woodridge said, the parties are attended by minors who consume alcohol. Like, this is a fraternity taking on the University of Idaho and the state of Idaho. Basically saying, yeah, maybe we'll think about complying, maybe. Let's see here. Tracy Arvis of Moscow, co-chairman of the Alumni Greek Council, agreed action beyond lip service is needed to make sure students abide by the law. The council met last Saturday, she said, and adopted a resolution recommending all UA chapters houses become alcohol-free by the first of the year. Neither UA nor the Alum Council has any power to force the fraternities to move one way or the other, but as Woodridge says, the University of Idaho can exert leverage. For example, if some fraternities insist on having wet parties, the University of Idaho could refuse to recognize them. When you don't recognize them, they can't do business, Woodridge said. A chapter that is not in good standing with the host university, he explained, will find it difficult or perhaps impossible to get insurance. Insurance companies don't cover you if you break the law. The idea of going dry has caused a stir among students who were greeted this fall with a zero tolerance policy. Remember, folks, this is 1996. This isn't 2022. This is 1996. The students say alcohol-free Greek row will force the parties off campus and perhaps create even bigger problems. University of Idaho sororities are dry, and at least one fraternity, all UA sororities are dry, and at least one fraternity prohibits alcohol. Woodridge said the university, while taking a firm stand, is willing to work with the universities. He said some of the concern among fraternity members stems from the chapter wanting to have ownership of any policies that may be adopted rather than being imposed from outside. So they want their own they want their own rules, and they want to be able to do it the way that they want. University of Idaho is one of 5 universities nationwide targeted for pilot projects to have dry week rows. Dry Greek rows. And I'm sure that's not working out well. UI is one of the 5 universities. Okay. Officials are. University of Idaho says there's a growing demand among students for substance-free housing. So basically what you're seeing right there is a power struggle between the University of Idaho and these Greek sororities. And it's quite the power struggle. So the next one, this one comes from, I believe, 2015. Okay, now while, like I said, hazing is not unusual in the world of fraternities, Moscow police alleged hazing at University of Idaho. Campus community remain mum. So this is our next question segment. If you want to call it that. We don't really have segments on the show, but, this could use its own segment.
Come here, I'm gonna eat you. I'm bigger than you, I'm higher in the food chain. Get in my belly.
I don't know who's working the soundboard, but that was about as ill-timed as you could get. But thank you for that. I appreciate it. I mean, what did that have to do with anything? Nothing, right?
Josh Birnbaum, step on up. Get on the scale, son. All right. Get off the scale.
All right. Moscow police investigating alleged hazing at UI. That's a Moscow Police Chief David Duke. Oh man, That's a crazy name to have. I'm not saying anything other than that's a crazy name to have. It's just a crazy name to have. Moscow Police Chief David Duke confirmed. It's funny because I say, hey, when we get excited, when there's like a good transition, like hit me with something like bam, segment, boom, and then I get hit with something like this. What am I going to do with that? What am I going to do with that? Nothing. I'm not going to be able to do anything with that.
Sucker muckagus.
Moscow Police Chief David Duke confirmed Tuesday that his department has opened an investigation into the allegations of hazing that led to the placing of sanctions, which have since been removed, on the Phi Gamma Delta fraternity. Phi Gamma Delta. Greek life, dude. In a major way. It's crazy. Phi Gamma Delta, Rogers, Zinc, Over, Tango, Foxtrot, House, and ultimately the resignation of University of Idaho Dean of Students Craig Chatraid, whatever the hell that. What is that? Duke said the investigation is still in its infant stages, and he declined to provide any details, which is a common theme when speaking about this kind of stuff. It's a very, very common theme, and sometimes, you're going, well, maybe not talking is the way to go, but it's just, at least not promoting. I'm sure they have toga parties. Duke said the investigation still investigations and to claim, Chatraid resigned from his position at the University of Idaho on March 2nd after officially taking over the role of Dean of Students in January. He confirmed on March 3rd his resignation was connected to an investigation regarding alleged hazing activities at the Phi Gamma Delta fraternity. Once again, we're dealing with these fraternities, and it's just kind of dumb. It does stem from the issues with Phi Gamma Delta. Chatelain said of the resignation, there's a situation that involves campus safety I'm not able to address in the way they need. So then going down, and I don't need to read the whole article, but I can link it in the description if you want. Hazing investigations are handled just like any other criminal investigation, Duke said. Member of the Phi Gamma Delta fraternity have refused to comment on the incident, and the fraternity's chapter attorney, they have attorneys, for God's sakes. So this is a trip. This is a trip. And if you're not here tonight and you're somewhere else, I'm feeling bad for you. This is so weird. Tell me this isn't weird. And I don't react to stuff like this at all because I usually don't care about anything, but because I think everything is not relevant. Like, I don't think everything is relevant. I don't think most things, like 90% of things, aren't relevant.
Rhinoceros.
Members of the Phi Gamma Delta fraternity have refused to comment on the incident, and the fraternity's chapter attorney John Bradbury of Lewington said Tuesday that he had, quote, no comment and absolutely nothing to say. It's a common theme. It's a common theme. University Director of Fraternity and Sorority Life, Brittany Bowles, or Bowles. I say it's definitely not Bowles, is it? Bowles? Bowles?
Rhinoceros.
University of Director of Fraternity and Sorority Life, Brittany, I'm going to say Bowles. Unreal. And the Executive Director of the Phi Gamma Delta's national organization, Bill Martin, did not respond to a request from statement. Interesting. It's interesting, right? All right, no. Let's, I say we just keep the party going. December 21st, 2017. University of Idaho students impose ban on Greek road drinking parties. The student-run organization that oversees the University of Idaho's Greek system have approved an indefinite ban on parties involving alcohol following the lead of counterparts at Washington State University in an effort to curb binge drinking, hazing, and SV or SA or all of the above are everything you can think of when it comes to that kind of stuff, unfortunately. The moratorium received a unanimous approval this month from the University of Idaho's Interfraternity Council. Panhellenic Council and Multicultural Greek Council panels of students that govern the university's 34 fraternities and sororities. I mean, this is like the Catholic Church. My God. In a joint statement, the leaders of these groups said they recognize glaring problems in the Greek community and were taking a proactive step to fix them. Now, you understand what we're talking. These organizations are huge. These fraternities, it's not all, they have political power. And they don't talk. Ever. About anything. Nothing. Talk to our lawyer. Here's our little puppet. Here's the whatever his face is. You guys remember that geek that they had on TV that said he had to go to class in 15 minutes? I shouldn't have called him a geek. I'm sorry. But I mean, come on. I kind of felt bad for the kid. He was like the throw him out there. Brian Enton's outside. Brian Enton's waiting for you. Can you imagine? Hey, there's a Keebler elf waiting outside. He looks frozen and he has pneumonia, but you should definitely go talk to him. We strongly believe that the safety and well-being of not only our Greek communities, but also our Vandal family on campus is very crucial, and it should be prioritized, said Gabriella Franco, an accounting student at the president of Multicultural Greek Council. Yeah, the president of the frat. In the past year, at least 4 fraternity members at U.S. colleges have died of hazing and alcohol-related incident. This included 19-year-old Tim Piazza, whose grisly death in February spurred a high-profile indictments against members of his fraternity at Penn State University. Piazza fell down a flight of stairs during a hazing ritual, receiving a traumatic brain injuries, but his brothers in Beta Theta Pi waited nearly 12 hours before calling 911. Moratoriums on social events have been imposed on at least 5 other campuses, either by administration or by students themselves. Let's see. There's it's Eckel said that he hopes that by curbing alcohol abuse. Okay, so there are obviously essays where alcohol is not involved. So it's just, it is what it is. Hazing's banned, alcohol's banned, it doesn't matter. But then I was like looking, and I found this, and I found this one interesting, and I don't know if people have seen this specific news clip or not. It's from Nonstop Local KHQ, but I found this to be very interesting.
Moscow police investigators have said that Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle were seen at the Sigma.
Hold on here.
Moscow police.
And now we've talked about how, the whole. It's like the 2 girls. The friends, it's just so weird because their timeline is so much more defined, Hold on one second. Hold on, I'm just bringing something up. Okay. So Kaylee and Maddie, their timeline is really, really defined. It seems as though, they're in town going all over the place, but Ethan and Xana, not so much.
Investigators have said that Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle were seen at the Sigma Chi fraternity house the night they were killed before returning to the house on King Road about 1:45 a.m. There are questions, online speculation about what happened at the Sigma Chi house that night before Ethan and Xana returned home. Nonstop Local's Guy Tannenbaum tried to get in touch with Sigma Chi today, joining us live from Moscow.
Sean. So what is so interesting about this and what this man is going to talk about is he extensively reaches out to these people. And if you've seen this, please put a 1 in the chat. I am curious to see how many people have seen it. Put a 1 in the chat if you've seen it, please. And I'll give it some time to catch up because I need to take a drink of water. Okay, so single mom's seen it. You've seen everything, huh? Okay, so okay, I guess you guys have seen it. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and play it. This guy extensively reaches out to these folks.
We know that Ethan was a member of the Sigma Chi fraternity, the house that you see just over my shoulder there. And the last we've heard from Moscow police about any potential involvement of Sigma Chi in this investigation is that detectives are looking for what happened between the around 9 p.m. on Saturday, November 12th, to when Ethan and Xana returned home to the house on King Road around 1:45 a.m. the next morning on November 13th, the morning they were killed. They say that any interactions, contacts, directions, or anything out of the ordinary could add context to what could have led up to the killings. But to this point, we haven't heard publicly from anyone from Sigma Chi, aside from an interview that Sigma Chi President Reed Ostland did with News Nation last week, where he said that they've cooperated to the investigation and told investigators everything they know to this point. So today, we tried to get in touch with members of Sigma Chi to see if they would be willing to speak with us and answer any of the questions that so many are wondering.
First, we tried calling the phone number we saw online for Sigma Chi, but that has apparently been disconnected.
We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service.
Next, we tried to reach a representative for the Idaho Fraternal Council, which oversees all the fraternities on campus.
Hey, this is so sorry for missing your call. But
another voicemail. Our next call to the university's Fraternity and Sorority Life office.
Sorry, Fraternity and Sorority Life
also went to voicemail. So we headed up to the Sigma Chi house to see if anyone there would be willing to talk with us. We did speak with a Sigma Chi member who told us he didn't want to be on camera and that members aren't speaking with the press.
And that member of Sigma Chi that we spoke with, he said, of course, he didn't want to speak on camera, but he did send a statement that Sigma Chi sent out to his members in the days after the killings. It reads in part, the Gamma Eta chapter of Sigma Chi is grieving the loss of our beloved brother Ethan Chapin following the senseless tragedy that took his life. We collectively extend our sincerest condolences and our most heartfelt thoughts and prayers to the families of our dear brother Ethan, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogan, and Kayla Gonsalves. We respectfully ask for time and space so we may support each other in our healing process during this most unimaginable of times. Investigators continuing to ask for any information, any tips, or any security video of the time that Ethan and Xana were at the Sigma Chi house behind me from until they went back to their house around 1:45 a.m. on November 13th. They're asking you to call the tip line if you have that information. Live in Moscow tonight.
One more time for the uninitiated. Not from the beginning, just from when he's like, hey, somebody's going to talk, right? I mean, come on. I'm local news. I may not be Brian Enton.
So sorry for missing your call. But
another
50 years of inclusion.
What the heck? No. What did you do? Okay. That was a pain. I'm sorry.
Moscow police investigators have said that Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle
potential involvement of
Peyton,
Sigma
you better
Chi
get back from Disneyland soon.
Is that detectives are looking for what happened between the around any interactions. Kai, aside from an interview, he said that they've cooperated to this point. So today we try.
First, we tried calling the phone number we saw online for Sigma Chi, but that has apparently been disconnected.
We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service.
Next, we tried to reach a representative for the Idaho Fraternal Council, which oversees all the fraternities on campus.
Hey, this is so sorry for missing your call. But
another voicemail. Our next call to the university's Fraternity and Sorority Life office.
Sorry, Fraternity and Sorority Life
also went to voicemail. So we headed up to the Sigma Chi house to see if anyone there would be willing to talk with us. We did speak with a Sigma Chi member who told us he didn't want to be on camera and that members aren't speaking with the press.
And that member of Sigma Chi that we spoke with, he said, of course, he didn't want to speak on camera, but he did send a statement that Sigma Chi sent out to his members in the days after the killings.
And I like how,
in part, the Gamma Eta chapter of Sigma Chi
I like how they
kind
of just made it about them in this whole whatever. Sound went out.
Our sincerest condolences and our most heartfelt thoughts and prayers to the families of our dear brother Ethan, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogan.
And if you're watching, enjoy Disneyland because you got a lot of stuff to do when you get back.
And Kaylee Gonsalves. We respectfully ask for time and space so we may support each other in our healing process during this most unimaginable of times. Investigators continuing to ask for any information, any tips, or any security video of the time that Ethan and Xana were at the Sigma Chi house behind me from until they went back to their house around 1:45 a.m. on November 13th. They're asking you to call the tip line if you have that information. Live in Moscow tonight, Guy Tannenbaum, Nonstop Local.
So, I find this whole fraternity thing interesting, and knowing that it's such a fraternity town is even more interesting. The number to call is 858-299-2504, and let me refresh it because I haven't. Okay, so there it is. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to go into the 4chan stuff. I don't want to go into the 4chan stuff or the Reddit stuff, but that's interesting too. Little sidebar here, and I really enjoy the guest that's on here, and we'll listen to this
Is there
a
something
little bit.
specific on the call that you believe could lead to an arrest?
Like I said, I can't discuss that. It's part of the investigation, but as soon as we can release that information, we will.
The Moscow Police Department releases some updates in the University of Idaho murder investigation. But what does it all mean? Retired NYPD Sergeant Joseph Jackalone breaks it down. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
Hey, what up, Jess?
We have some more updates for you right now in the University of Idaho murder investigation. I'm talking about the killings of 21-year-old Kaylee Gonsalves, 21-year-old Madison Mogan, 20-year-old Xana Kernodle, and 20-year-old Ethan Chapin, whose bodies were found in their off-campus home back on November 13th. Now, at the time of this recording, there have been no arrests, no publicly identifiable suspect, and no indication that the murder weapon has been recovered. But as I said, the Moscow Police Department has issued a press release with some updates. And to help me break down these updates, I want to bring in Joseph Jackalone, retired NYPD sergeant and author of the Criminal Investigative Function 3rd edition. Joseph, thanks for coming here on Sidebar. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Where's the 4th?
Thanks for having me, Jesse.
I'm going to go through some of these different points, and then I want your reaction to it and what this means. So the first 2 points are, let me rephrase, I'm not necessarily going in the order of which it's listed, but I think this is the way that I think we should structure it. So 2 points that they have in this press release are, number one, they say no suspect has been identified and only vetted information that does not hinder the investigation will be released to the public. We encourage referencing official releases for accurate and updated progress. All press releases and related information is available, and then they give their website. They go on to say that investigators believe someone has information that adds context to what occurred on the night.
Yeah, we know. Let's see. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hello. I was just wondering why Ethan's brother, that's part of that fraternity, why he doesn't speak up and say anything about where they were at all night and stuff.
I mean, it's a great question. Probably, I would assume that he's probably been told not to, and I'm sure that he's going, because isn't he a triplet?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I could see him not talking, but and somebody in the chat rightfully said earlier, hey, why would anybody talk to the media? I don't know, but they do. And the fact that they have to everybody's Instagram has been locked down. Everybody's social media has been locked down from those fraternities or from that specific fraternity. And so I can see why the brother wouldn't, but I can't, would they really go this far to cover up or just to be quiet for their fraternity brothers? I mean, these are powerful organizations.
Yeah, I don't know. I still think Jack D did it.
I don't even. Which one's that? Is that the hoodie guy?
Kaylee's ex.
The redhead guy?
Huh?
The redheaded guy?
Yeah.
No.
Yep. I think he did it.
Why? Why do you think he did it? I'm just curious. I don't really have an opinion about it, but why do you think he did it? You just think that the motive kind of fits the
they were going to
jealousy?
get back together, and then Maddie told Adam that more than what she should have, and he just flipped out.
The problem with that is why everybody else? You know, if it was just her, or two in the same room, but to go from floor to floor and kill two sets of people over that, I don't know. I don't know.
Ethan came walking because I think Ethan was he was in the kitchen part, I think. It's the way they.
I've heard something like that as well. So you don't think that this is fraternity related at all?
No, not really. No, I just don't know why they don't speak up on their whereabouts of Ethan and Vanna during that time.
Right.
But I don't think it's fraternity related.
So, what did you think about the piece that came out with Jack's aunt talking about how devastated he is and that he lost the love of his life? Now, granted, I get it; they weren't together. That I understand, but I'm sure that he fell in love with her, or there was whatever. And everybody knows that jealousy and love and crimes of passion, those motives often happen. But I mean, don't you think that would be a pretty easy solve?
Maybe not in his state of mind at the time.
Yeah,
maybe.
I just think the police would be able to solve that pretty fast. Like,
did the police even look in the wooded area? Because I never seen them looking back there much.
I don't know. I don't know. What do you think could be back there? Just like the murder weapon?
Well, or some blood trails or something. I don't know.
Right.
But I've never really seen anybody looking back there.
Well, didn't you see Brian Enton went back there?
Yeah.
That's why he was back there trotting around. He looked like he was near death that night. Poor Brian. I'm a big fan of Brian.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah, me too.
This whole Jack thing, all these Jacks and Davids and whatever. I think that it would be probably fairly easy to solve this case if it were somebody that obvious. Now, I've heard just rumors and speculation that there was some disturbances at the frat house that night. And possibly, and by the way, which isn't new in the sense of fraternities and parties and things like that. None of that is new. It's just that if Ethan was involved because of
didn't he like to make fun of somebody that night? Or
well, that's that is and Sugar, I want to thank you so much for that $10 super chat. Yes, yes, that is the rumor. It's steroid related and things like that. But I don't, I could see somebody on steroids doing something like this fairly easily. But you know, I don't know.
Well, those are just my thoughts.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I hear the Jack thing, and look, that the only reason that I don't think that he has anything to do with this is like those are the first people you'd look at, you know,
right? But they cleared him pretty quickly.
So, and yes, they did. And that's another thing that I did want to address here. So Phil, F-I-L, which we saw last night on Sidebar, and we talked about a little bit. Okay, this is going to go on 3 more times. So you hang in there, caller. Okay, here we go. Dun, 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 dun. I can't stop it. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Bam. I think we got one more, caller. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Boom. I nailed it. All right. So, so last night, Phil, F-I-L, or some call him Felipe. I call him, and Teresa, thank you so much for those gifting memberships. Very awesome. So Phil's saying, you work from the inside out. And a lot of people are saying, well, didn't Chris say you work from the outside in? The investigation goes from the inside out. And the crime scene is outside in. So, a lot of people, that was a question that I was getting. So yes, you work the crime scene from the outside in. You work the investigation from the inside out. Meaning they're going to look at the boyfriends and ex-boyfriends and everything like that first, So Jack is going to be, DeBella DeBall, for lack of a better term, immediately. Where was he? Where was the ex-boyfriend? I want to see the ex-boyfriend. Where look at all the ex-boyfriends.
They say he was at the corner pub.
What's that?
They say he was at the corner pub that night.
It's a small town,
But he says he was sleeping. So I don't know how they got he was sleeping when
watching YouTube
he
or
was
something.
At the corner pub.
Is that what he was doing? I mean, yeah,
I don't know.
It's completely possible, but yeah, didn't see that one coming. Judy Grandstand, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Somebody says he was at the bar.
And his aunt is now having to GoFundMe to get Kaylee's vehicle.
Yeah, I heard about that. That's kind of odd.
Kaylee's parents. Yeah.
That's very odd.
Yeah, that is.
I don't. Yeah. I don't understand what's the purpose of that.
I thought it was kind of strange.
So is it just like they just what? So what does her aunt have to do?
His aunt, Jack's aunt.
So what does she have to do with the car?
She just set up a GoFundMe to raise money to buy the car for Kaylee's parents.
Gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah. Right, so they don't have to incur any more expenses or something like that.
Have it repoed.
Yeah,
because she just got it.
It's yeah. I don't know why they did that either, but I'm telling you, it's
be a nice gesture. I don't know.
I think it probably sounds pretty magnanimous, right? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. It's going to be interesting. Yeah. I think that they'll wrap this thing up here. I've been saying that, so why would anybody believe me? But I keep moving it because I said I thought it would be before Christmas, and well, that didn't happen.
I thought it would too.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, sometime in January. Probably. Look, the problem is, and we'll hear more about this on the sidebar, is how detailed this investigation probably is, how many DNA profiles they've had to go through, and so on and so forth. And so they'll talk about the hang up a little bit, the time, I guess you'd call it, that it has taken, which isn't it's not uncommon.
I see in your chat that they took it down at the request of Kaylee's parents.
Right. Well, that makes sense.
That GoFundMe.
That makes sense. It probably
I didn't know that.
And it could have been a fake too. We don't even know. It could have been a fake person, but I'm sure that'll get verified as well.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you calling in. Is this your first time calling?
Yeah.
First time caller.
I'm from
Love
Iowa.
it. Thank you for calling. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Night of the murders and continue requesting additional pictures, video, and social media content. Our focus remains on the investigation, not on an individual's activities displayed in the tip. Whether you believe it is significant or not, your information might be one of the puzzle pieces that help solve these murders. And then it says digital submissions of tips and leads will not be publicly disclosed due to our ongoing commitment to keep information private, and details may be pertinent to the ongoing criminal investigation. My first question to you is, does that alarm you? Because doesn't it make it seem like they're not as advanced in the investigation as you would hope?
No, not yet. I mean, I am concerned about how things are progressing, but you have to understand something. The police department always holds back information. They don't provide things that would be detrimental to the case. And we have seen a large outpouring of information coming from the true crime community. And some of it has been just wrong and it's just been actually awful. So they have to try to kind of combat that. And if you look at this bullet, there's a lot of things that they're saying in here we're not saying in there, right? So there's a lot of what I refer to as cop speak. So they're trying to tell everybody, listen, we haven't come out with anything publicly yet. That doesn't mean that they don't have a suspect or suspects. But what it does tell everybody, it kind of puts them on notice that anything that comes out basically outside from the police department is you kind of not pay attention to it, because they're not running the investigation. The Moscow Police Department, the state, and the FBI are all involved in this, right? So the Moscow we know is the lead because I don't see a federal nexus here, right? Not yet, right? We're not privy to everything. But here's the other thing when you look at this. There's an old motto that all investigators have, and that is somebody knows something. And that's probably universal throughout the entire United States. And the idea is to try to get those people who have maybe witnessed something that they thought was strange. You got to remember, this is a small community. This is, when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, small university, people coming and going. You have family members, everybody. This is national and international news. And what they're hoping is that somebody has spotted something that they thought was out of place. And the time was this really to come out with information like this was in the very beginning when this crime happened.
But when they say no suspect has been identified, does that mean publicly identified? That doesn't mean that they haven't found anybody. Because the way that I looked at it, if they had someone on their radar, I think based on what we've seen, they're not going to tell the public, right? They're not going to tell anybody yet until there's arrest. I'm reading that and saying they really have no idea who did this yet. We need more help. Maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way. Maybe they really do have some suspects, just they haven't publicly identified the suspects. How should I be reading that?
Well, yes, they're not going to, have. Listen, I think that they do have suspects or people that they think are involved in this crime, whether it's an individual or individuals. I do think they have a focus on specific people. And the reason why I think that way is because of the DNA and all the different things that they've taken out of the house. I think that they would try to maybe key in on a couple of people. You got to remember, cell phone records, internet records. We saw video surveillance, which I refer to as the 3 forensic horsemen. Those 3 things, they're putting these pieces together. Now, the case is not moving as fast as the public wants, but that's not the way these cases work. You have a quadruple homicide. This is something that is very time consuming. And the problem that you run into is with the DNA is that there might be multiple donors in a house of this kind of situation where it's at a college campus.
So, like you said, it's not moving fast enough for the public, but he doesn't really like me. I mean, that doesn't seem abnormal. My God, Peyton. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Hey, Josh. It's Suzanne from California.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you very much.
Okay, I got a new, not a new theory, but I don't think it's the frat people because I can't put them in the house. Not doing that awfulness. But here's what I think, and it's just my opinion. Because I heard a interview today. They went over some of the other shows were going over some of the old interviews, and the chef guy. I'm not going to say his name, but you know who I'm talking about.
Oh, you can say his name. He does interviews all the time. And by the way,
well,
he put his name out there. Nobody else did. But go ahead, say his name.
Harsh.
Yep.
I can't remember his
I believe it's
first name.
Ian Harsh.
Ian Harsh.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was being interviewed, one of his first interviews, and at the end of the interview, the guy asked him, "So, what do you think happened?" And he didn't even give a breath. He just automatically said, "The guy must have went in there to the girl, and the guy was there, and he got mad, so he killed everybody." Now, I could see him doing something like that.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, look, I've seen his interviews. He's crazy.
Yeah, he is crazy. There's a lot of, anyways.
So here's the thing about Ian Harsh or whatever his name is. It's one of those things where when something's too good to be true, it usually is. I think he's a weirdo. I think did you hear me talk about him a little bit at the beginning of the show?
Yeah, but my internet on my TV was going in and out, so I had to get on my phone. So
Ian's a weirdo. He has inserted himself into the investigation for some reason. He's I don't know if he's really this mentally deranged to where if he did this and then he's like giving interviews down the street, that would almost be like one of the most insane stories you'd ever heard in your life. Does that make sense? Like, it's bad enough that bridge guy from Delphi worked at the CVS. You know what I mean?
Right.
That is
right.
Like way too, you're going, oh my God. Now you're taking it like three steps further. I'm not saying that's not possible, and I'm not saying he doesn't make himself look suspicious. He absolutely does. And people I don't know if he thought that this was going to happen, but yeah, people are after him. I mean, there are people that truly believe. I'm not one of them, but that's just my theory. I think he's dumb. I don't think he's that dumb. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I could, after hearing that interview again and hearing him just quickly answer without a second thought, I could believe that he could do this, and I could be totally wrong, okay? And I probably am, but just the thought of any of those kids, and I know that there are wacko kids out there. I'm not naive to that, but just to think that any of those kids could do something like that just is beyond me.
Right. Well,
I watched
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I watched a movie the other night about the guy that killed all those people and threw them in the river. And, well, there must have been up to 30 people that he killed. And he looked as normal as could be. And they actually this is a true story. I'm really bad with names, so I'm not going to try and remember the names. But they actually let him go because they didn't have enough they didn't have enough evidence on him. And another 5 or 6 years went by before they caught him, and he did more and more killings. You know who I'm talking about? The river.
Yeah, Green River Killer.
Yeah. And then he's still, I mean, who would think that somebody could do all that?
Yeah, that would be
And
Gary
then even
Ridgway. That's right, Kelly. Yes, Gary Ridgway was his name. Sadistic, psychotic, disgusting serial killer, no doubt. And you'd look at him and you'd go, well, he's kind of normal.
Yeah.
When in fact, he's the most unnormal person ever.
Yes, because even after they caught him, he had more bodies that he led them to. I can't remember the count. I never heard of anybody killing that many people.
Right. No,
It's just that.
I know exactly.
I just hope and pray that they catch him before he does it again. You know, I know things take time and we have to be patient and let the police do their job. But on the other hand, as wacko as this person is, whoever he is, he could do it again.
Yeah, so I don't think that they're taking their time with arresting somebody. I don't think that they have enough yet. I think that they're waiting. I mean, you know, obviously getting this person off the street is only the beginning. That's just the beginning. You got to prove it. And you have to have a reason to arrest them. You have to have probable cause. You have, you know, it's not like they can just, you know, it's not it's not Germany 1939 or whatever when you can just go around rounding people up. These people have constitutional rights, and I get it. I understand a lot of people look really suspicious. Ian Harsh looks suspicious, and he's probably fit for a straitjacket with some of his comments. And they've been really weird comments. But I just don't think that it's... I mean, you know, I don't know. A lot of people believe it's him. A lot of people do. I just can't get there.
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying, you know, I've been so confused with the whole case, you know, just one day it's going this way, one day it's going this way. And, you know, so when I heard that interview, it just sparked some hope in me that, you know, that they might be on the right track. So
and another thing is, you know, that this media cycle that we're on right now when it comes to the Moscow murders, I think in a couple of weeks it really starts to quieten down, whether it's solved or not. If nothing else is going to come out, you know what I mean? Like if, you know, when I remember I was on air when the police department said, you know, be on the lookout for a white car. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, that's a big deal. I thought that was a really big deal. I still think it's a big deal. But I don't know if it's panned out. That's all, you know. I don't know if it's panned out. I don't know where they are with it. Or if that was just something for us to chew on, if that makes any sense.
Well, the sheriff already, you know, acknowledged that he should have put that out sooner. You know, it's kind of, that should have been put out. That information should have been put out right when it happened.
Right. I mean, it's hard to. It's
hopefully,
hard. It's hard to
I've
disagree.
been watching. Yeah,
Go ahead, Susie.
it is because nobody knows. We could sit here and speculate, but nobody really knows. And I've been watching true crime for several years, and it's always been like one person, and this is horrible, but it's been one child or one infant or one adult. This is the first time I've ever followed a case like this, and it's just got me depressed.
Yeah.
Really depressed.
Right.
So
well, that's one of those things where unfortunately, my take on this is it is such a weird thing that true crime is an entertainment type. I wouldn't say business, but $billion. It's like a $1 billion entity unto itself. True, like the investigation, discovery, the first 48, cops, on and on and on and on and on. And
yeah.
We're fascinated by it because things like that don't just happen in typical life. You know what I mean? I've never known 4 people to get to get killed like that.
Yeah, it's it's just, even when we had the Night Stalker guy that was killed in California, that they caught him, that he was, what was his name? And they had the video of the guy walking down the sidewalk, and it showed his Gant, and that's one of the ways they caught him.
Right.
And he had killed how many people, but it was one at a time. It wasn't 4 people all at once like this.
Yeah, then that's what turns our fascinations to it. And also a lot of people that are interested in this kind of stuff, like you and I and others. I mean, I'm sure, I don't know what's happened in your life, but obviously there's a lot of people come to this because they have either known or been a part of something terrible and sort of root for the law and order and justice to be served when things like this happen. I was just talking to McDonough today on the phone. We were talking about this case, and I said, Chris, I was looking at a photo, the photo, and you can see the photo on the screen too. But I was looking at the photo of these kids, and they are that's what they are. They're kids. They're young, they're healthy, kids, full of life. I'm going to tell a story here, Susie, and you're going to don't hate me. But I had a dog. His name was Rio. And Rio was abused when I got him. He was a pup. And I really tried really hard with Rio. And he just kept attacking other dogs. Okay. And then he started biting at me and others. Well, he got a hold of a Shih Tzu one day, and the dog lived, but it was very messed up. Okay. I'm not going to say what breed Rio is because I don't want to start this whole debate. And I was trying to find Rio a home anywhere. On a farm by himself, because he was 3 years old. He was strong. He was healthy. He was beautiful. He was damaged. And, when I disclosed what was happening, there was nobody willing to take him. And how hard it was for me to do what I had to do with him it was so difficult because of how young and strong and pretty and full of life that he was. You understand? And
yes, I do.
It makes it even worse. It was just, and I look at these kids and they're young and vibrant and happy and just living their life. And it just makes everything more difficult because, and like you said, you know, it's depressing. It certainly is depressing. There's no question about it. And I don't know, you know, my grandmother, who doesn't watch true crime or care to know anything about true crime, has heard about this case. You know,
wow.
It's all over. It's all over.
Wow.
And
well, my friend.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
My friend was asking me about it because she knows I watch true crime, and she had heard it on the news, the regular news. So yeah, it is nationwide. You know, when you're talking about your dog, I had a chow that attacked a kid in my backyard. They weren't supposed to be in my backyard, and my youngest daughter was swinging on the swings, and she was on a chain, but the girl got too close to the chain, and she just really did a number on the little girl. So I had to have her put down. And man, that was so hard for me because I loved that dog. Because when my husband, my oldest son's dad committed I got that dog for security,
wow.
For safety. And so I was so close to that dog, and she was a good dog, but she was a protector. And that little girl came in and got too close to my youngest daughter, and that was it.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I understand.
How old was the dog?
It's like, oh, she wasn't that old.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, you know, that's another thing. I remember when we went to the vet and had to do all that. I went out back. So it's on Broadway, at the main street through town, but it's kind of on the way out of town. And so what's back there is like old, like, like steel yards and concrete, shops, and the veterinarian is on the side of the street. But I walked out to the back because there was nobody out there, and I sat against the wall, hunched down. And when I cried, it was like, one of those like kind of like up and down. You're like, your body's literally crying, right? You're like, I felt so bad, and it was just, and I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me because I felt sorry for the dog. That's who I felt sorry for. I was just like, and I would just always go, who did this? Why'd you do that? When I found him, he had rocks in his stomach. Mm-hmm. He was hungry. Mm. And I had him for 2 years. And I think I gave him the best 2 years until he really started to, his mind really started to, the puppy was gone really fast in him. And anyway.
That happened.
Yeah, but I
can relate to that.
Yeah, it's terrible.
The flip side, it is. The flip side of my situation, all my kids blamed me.
Yeah, I know.
It took the longest time for my kids to not hate me over that. Oh, man.
And these are just dogs. You know, and I'm not comparing these kids. I'm just saying how young and I was, you know, I saw a picture of Ethan the other day. I mean, he looks like a big buff kid.
Yeah.
He's tall, he's handsome, he's, you know, they're all really good looking kids, you know, they well groomed and just young and going to college, and then you go, and then it's all taken away overnight. Like it's nothing, you know,
I liked what Ethan's, what is his girlfriend's name? I always forget how to pronounce it.
This Ethan and Xana. Sorry.
Xana?
Yeah. Zana.
Xana? I'll never forget what Xana's dad said, that he was so happy that she got a chance to be in love.
Yeah.
You remember him saying that? Yeah.
I do remember that.
Well, I'm going to let.
Thank you very much for the call. I appreciate it.
Okay. Well, you have a great night.
Okay. Bye-bye. Well, that got dark, Susie.
And they're going to have to cull through a lot of these things. So I believe that they have people that they were looking into, right? So they might need a DNA exemplar. They might need to be able to eliminate people. They're not going to keep, they're going to keep the public and specifically the perpetrator guessing, right? This is not checkers where the police move and the person move. You have to play chess, right? You're thinking 3 moves ahead. And sometimes in policing with these criminal investigations, you have to play poker, right? Where you have to bluff people. So the lack of a specific target or anything like that, or even hinting at it, I think would be really bad idea, especially the way the true crime community, some in the true crime community, has been really looking into these cases and coming up with their own, you know, wild theories and kind of like some have actually interfered with it, right? We're seeing the release of videos and everything else, which is not good.
And I'm going to get to that in a second. I do want to focus on one other aspect, the murder weapon. We don't have any indication that it's been recovered. Having said that, is it possible the police department has recovered the murder weapon, but they just won't tell us?
No, I think they would tell us if they recovered the murder weapon, right? So the issue, unless they want to try to track down where it was possibly bought, you know, maybe there's a serial number on it so that they can actually, you know, trace that down. We have federal agencies involved in this, right? So we have, you know, the FBI working on this. We have access to databases and those kind of things where they could find out. So listen, finding the murder weapon is extremely important in this case, but will it identify the person who is responsible? Maybe. You got to remember, the person who bought it might not be the responsible person who actually committed these acts, right? It could have been somebody bought it, somebody stole it, somebody bought it in their home and somebody took it from their home, right? Unbeknownst to the owner. So those things all have to be taken into consideration.
You had mentioned something about, you know, people online getting involved and that could be a distraction. Well, one of the other bullet points in this Moscow Police Department press release is they say, at the time in this investigation, detectives do not believe that the female associate professor and chair of the history department at the University of Idaho suing a TikTok user for defamation is involved in this crime. The Moscow Police Department will not provide a statement.
By the way, the fact that they even have to talk about this and release a statement on this is nuts. And I've seen that TikToker, apparently her account's locked, but it's not down, and it should be down, and she should be in a mental institution or in prison.
About the ongoing civil process. Now, to give everybody a little bit more context about this, there was a woman on TikTok named Ashley Gillard, self-professed tarot card reader, who claims in a series of posts that a University of Idaho professor named Rebecca Schofield is the actual killer. She makes the allegation that Schofield was in a relationship with one of the victims and then killed everybody.
What I did on his arrest and her arrest, 2 totally different readings. It looks like he will be put to justice way before she does. They will be slow in arresting her.
She's all pissed now because the cop said that the professor had nothing to do with it, and she's like, I can't believe the cops would come out and say that, or something, you know, just like, hey, they're never gonna solve this. It's like, shut up. She's a pain in the ass. She really is.
She's gonna first go to another job. She's going to leave her current job and start writing.
And I'm not convinced that this is for clout. I'm convinced that this is some sort of sickness. There's some sort of illness going on there. You know, I really, really don't think that's, you know, I think there's something rotten in Denmark, folks. I think she's a couple fries short of a Happy Meal, a couple bricks short of a wall, and so on and so on. You know, I could do that all day. Actually, I can't even think of any more right now. A couple units short of a semester.
She's going to focus on her writing and she's going to isolate herself. So she's going to leave. That's after she backstabs the killer. She's not going to live up to her promises for him. I mean, she can't. So it's a change of plans. That's when she's going to get out of Dodge. She'll be isolated in some like cabin or a house somewhere. She's going to focus on her writing, her books. She's going to get a lawyer, but she's still going to lose her case. She's going to go to jail while her trial is pending.
Look, I'm crazy too. I've said this before, like I could see it in her eyes that she's crazy. And maybe she's triple vaccinated like I am, and that's part of her problem. But like, I don't know.
The final verdict will reveal that she's guilty and that she wasn't the person that everybody thought she was. See the zombie? It may take a while for this all to happen.
Now, we know that Professor Schofield has sued Galar for her comments. And I'm curious, when you look at that, the fact that they had to come out and say she is not a suspect. What'd you make of that?
Well, I'm sure the professor's attorneys are very happy with that bullet, right? Because it actually leads off the press conference. So it kind of leads credence to that this was all nonsense and this is basically fabricated. You can't accuse anybody of anything, name names. First of all, what's happening, you're going to get yourself sued. But the thing that I'm worried about is that you're going to get somebody hurt, right? It's irresponsible to name somebody or focus in on a specific person. Whether, I'm not even going to say it because of the fact that there are people out there who will target this individual and may cause physical harm or what have you. I mean, we have to be very careful. And, the true crime community, most of them have done, what they want to do in respect. They're interested in this case. They're looking up things. They're trying to help. But there is a small contingent that is wreaking havoc. And we're going to see those people weeded out eventually. And if it requires filing a lawsuit, if it requires, a takedown order or a cease and desist from
Goofy Girl, it's funny that you say that. I was thinking the same thing. I was kind of like, are there actually people that like buy that? And triple vax stand up, but like, come on. I just didn't think people could take it serious. And I'm more than triple. I'm 5 times over. So I'm sure I'll get flagged for this. Please don't, please don't do me dirty.
Lawyers, I think that this is unfortunately where we're headed. This might be, Jesse, the biggest case so far we've seen with social media influence, to date, for sure, as far as I'm concerned. That's my opinion, of course.
Maybe influencing an ongoing investigation. I remember the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial. Man, social media was all over that every 5 seconds. The problem with this is, it takes resources and time away from the police department to address this and put it to bed. And obviously, what's really interesting is Miss Gillard has doubled down on her claims that the professor's the killer. So something there. But there's another point in the Moscow Police Department press release. They say there have been numerous inquiries from members of the public and media to verify digital media published online. Any picture.
So this right here, this was prime time, June or July 2020. You know what I mean? Prime time. Johnny Carson, 11 o'clock show, vids. This is one of those emergency purchases when like these new hand sanitizer friggin' companies popped up all over the world. And for 2 weeks, you couldn't get any. And then so I was in line one day, and I bought this. It's called Everyman Jack hand sanitizer. And it's expired, but it's like a relic, for some reason.
Video provided through the official public records request process is authentic. However, once a record is released, we can no longer verify its authenticity, as we do not know if anything has been altered. Detectives are aware of videos distributed by local businesses.
I don't know if they do. I don't think so.
It's quite unfortunate. We've seen at least one video.
I don't really care, though.
Entirety.
I really don't. First of all, I think it's so stupid that you can't in the context of a show that if you're talking about crime, that sexual assault will get your channel flagged or your video flagged, and I think what they do is they just kind of demonetize it. But I'm going to do my show however I want to do my show, and if they demonetize it, I don't care. Because I'm not going to dance around going, oh, well, they're going to demonetize my video. There's not going to be any ads in there. Well, whatever. I'm going to do the show the way it would be stupid. I tell people all that. They say, oh, I'm not going to say SA. I say it. Murder. It's part of what we do. They say this whole unaliving thing, unaliving. No, it's called suicide. It's a real thing. It's a terrible thing. But, we can't just pretend those words don't exist. They exist. So this is a show about crime, that's how we're going to run it. I'm not saying that you get on here and go caca, pee, pee, poo, poo, ba, 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 ba.
Where we had basically, it was the thing that really was interesting is that it was recording audio. Now you'd have to ask a lawyer about this, but
the thing is, I'm not a fan of churching stuff up, because I don't think that they're bad words. I think that they're words to accurately describe what has happened. Okay, and so, if, this whole, I listen to people, they unalived. That sounds way worse than suicide to me. Unalived, that is a weird thing to say. This video is getting flagged for sure. That's all right. Here, I got some more for you. And if you go flag it all you want, yeah, I don't care. And that's just how I feel about that. It is what it is. And if you don't like it, you can. There. That's how I feel about it. And then if you want to go at it, we can do it. We can. I want more lock. Moving on.
Record audio unless you're part of the conversation. So to me, that was an interesting thing. So everybody who's walking by, we heard, so that was where the whole thing about Adam came up, right? Like, what did you do to Adam? I think some substance like that, where they were talking about the girls were walking down, and of course everyone jumped on that. So that was an unfortunate release, and we now saw, I think, a still photo of something inside the bar.
Let me address that real quick. So there are reports that there's this newly leaked image of what could be Gonsalves and Mogan inside a bar at 1:32 a.m. on the night of the murders. It's an image apparently from a surveillance video. Again, it hasn't been authenticated. Now, remember, it's believed that they got home close to, I think, 2 a.m. and we believe that the killings happened between 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. Yeah, talk to me what you make of that image that's circulating.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
So we have another release. Now this is actually probably some of the worst things that you could see what could happen in this situation, where we have either businesses who are sharing this with true crime people and they're putting it out on the social media or on YouTube or what have you. This doesn't help the investigation, right? This actually only now compounds issues. And we see the police department do this a number of times where they're answering out things specifically from the public, right? And that's not even the media or the press. This is, we don't have journalists and reporters asking for the stuff. We have people from all over the country. And here's the other thing, and not really many people are talking about. They've had over, I think they said 10,000 tips. All right, that's kind of unheard of, which means to me that most of the tips that they're getting have little to no value, but the police
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. That's a lot of tips to not have a solved crime.
department has to go through each and every one of these things. They have to be answered out somehow. So these are then time consuming. And you saw the FBI adding, I think it was 10 agents. If we're chasing down leads that have nothing to do with it, and then complain that this is taking
Sorry,
too long,
Rena.
I think we could kind of figure out exactly where the problem actually is. We don't want to turn people off, and they specifically said kind of that kind of cop talk in
I
there
feel
too, that
bad.
even if you think it's not important, send it to us anyway. So they don't
sorry.
want to prevent somebody who might know something from doing it. But here's again, I mean, they're dealing with an enormous amount of information, and I think that's slowing them down too.
Let's talk about the amount of information that's coming to the Moscow Police Department, the amount of tips. So another bullet point in their press release is they say progress continues to locate the white 2011-2013 Hyundai Elantra believed to be in the immediate area of the King Road residence during the early morning hours of November 13th. Investigators believe the occupants may have critical information to share regarding this case and have identified over 22,000 vehicles. If you know of or own a vehicle matching this description or know of anyone who may have been driving this specific vehicle on the day of proceeding or the day of the murders, please forward that information to the tip line. Now, this is something that the Moscow Police Department has been looking for what, the last 2 weeks or so?
Yeah.
What is your take on the fact that they haven't been able to locate it yet?
Well, because of the fact that the information that went out, as far as I'm concerned, it came out later on than it should have. I think they should have released that information much sooner. That would have been the time to put a reward out for it, right? Especially right before Thanksgiving, when all the families, everybody's come together, people have gone home from school or what have you. That was your opportunity to try to get some information out there. That being said, it's a good sign that they still believe that car contains a piece of evidence or the person involved in this case. So that's something good, because eventually it kind of fell off the radar, so to speak, in previous press releases. So
that's the funniest thing is I talked to matter of fact, I was talking to Peyton this morning, and I was like, how do you like Disneyland this time of year? And he's like, it's so packed. And he doesn't like riding rides. I was like, he doesn't like people either. And I'm like, why are you there? And he's like, I don't know, my girlfriend. And he's like, I'm having a good time with her. But he goes, they want $150 for a lightsaber. And I said, I don't know what's worse, the fact that it's $150 for a lightsaber or that you want one.
Now, finding a car with no plates is extremely difficult. And what happens is there are tools that the police department use. I'm sure they went to the university, because generally in colleges, I'm not so sure about the university here, but they usually require you to register a vehicle to park in that location so that we don't get people leaving their cars. So I'm sure they went through that avenue. And then the other avenue is you have to go through the DMV. Now, going through the DMV and asking for every white Elantra, there you go. 22,000 cars can show up. Now, that could just be from Idaho, right? Because remember, you also have to look at it's close to other states like Washington, right? Because the autopsy was done in Spokane, I think. So you now have to create this huge circle, and you keep on going out. And quite frankly, that is an amazing task that they have to go through, because they don't have any other identifiers other than it's a white car, and we think it's an Elantra, right? We don't even know for sure. So, yeah, I think they're hoping that the public once again would help out with this. And People
He's
say
not
that
in
they
Florida.
discounted
He's
the
in
one that they
he's in
found
LA.
pretty quickly. Well, I think that's, but here you go. If anybody who was responsible for that crime murdered these four women, the three women and this man, all that blood, all that thing, dragged it with them. They got into that car. They dragged the evidence with them. They will be able to tell right away if that's the car. I don't care what they try to do with it. Now,
that's why I tried
here's
to
the other
tell
thing.
him.
You think we might find the car somewhere in a ditch, somewhere set on fire, somewhere, thrown in a lake? That could also be a possibility because there's no plates. We don't know. And that's going to be the problem trying to locate this car. You tip off suspects, and that's what the police don't
maybe.
Yeah, and that car that you had mentioned, they ruled out the owner of the car. The car was registered in a different state. They found it, I think, in Oregon, and they said it didn't have a relation to the crime. I wanted to ask you.
You know what that reminds me of? The scent. What is the movie? The Scent of a Woman, when Al Pacino's giving his speech. And like, if you're from Oregon, you don't pronounce it Oregon, you pronounce it Oregon. But if you're not from there, and the farther back you are east, you would call it Oregon. And in that movie, The Scent of a Woman, I remember he's like straight up, and you're gonna send them back to Oregon. Oregon. You see, you're out of order. Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember. I did that whole spiel when Daryl Brooks was on trial. Hey, you think I'm out of order? You're out of order. How dare you? I'll take a flamethrower to this place. I mean, what other talent on YouTube does that? In and out, in and out. I mean, I just do it. He does it all. I do impressions. I have a soundboard. I take calls. Oregon. How dare you?
Because Chief Fry, the Moscow Police Chief Fry, has said the reason we're not releasing more information right now is we are concerned about an eventual prosecution down the line. In fact, he went on to say that they wouldn't release the 911 phone call that
I'm too old. I'm too blind.
was apparently made by the roommates the morning after the murder, where we believe other people came.
There is no prosthetic for an amputated soul.
To the house too. There was a report that they told 911 of an unconscious person. They won't share more information. They won't release the 911 phone call until they get the A-OK from prosecutors.
I love that.
Well, you always hold back information on any case that you work, but one this big, you hold back because you want to have an unbiased jury pool. And it's not just about today. It's about in a year from now or whenever we make an arrest and go to trial.
Wait, what did he say?
We want to have that pool of people who can look at the case and hold back because you want to have
murder, where we believe other people came to the house too. There was a report that they told 911 of an unconscious person. They won't share more information. They won't release the 911 phone.
Yeah, people who pronounce it like that don't get presents from Santa. People that pronounce it like that also kill cactuses.
Call until they get the A-OK from prosecutors.
Well, you always hold back information on any case that you work, but one this big, you hold back because you want to have an unbiased jury pool. And it's not just about today. It's about in a year from now or whenever we make an arrest and go to trial. We want to have that pool of people who can look at the case and not have all the facts to that to make the decision to find this person guilty.
Is that standard operating procedure? They're concerned about a process.
I talked through that whole thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and that car that you had
out of order.
out the roommates.
Out of order. I'll show you out of order.
Other people came to the house too. There was a report that they told 911 of an unconscious person. They won't share more information. They won't release the 911 phone call until they get the A-OK from prosecutors.
Well, you always hold back information on any case that you work, but one this big, you hold back because you want to have an unbiased jury pool. And it's not just about today. It's about in a year from now or whenever we make an arrest and go to trial. We want to have that pool of people who can look at the case and not have all the facts to that to make the decision to find this person guilty.
Is that standard operating procedure? They're concerned about a prosecution down the
No,
road.
they
He said he was
don't.
afraid of tainting a jury pool.
Do they? I don't think so. I live right next to Oregon. Like I live just like I live an hour and a half from Oregon.
Investigating any homicide specifically, you have to believe that this case, you're going to catch the person and that this case is going to trial. And you have to dot your I's and cross your T's. Now, here are some issues, though. We saw statements made by the coroner that what I thought were pretty bad, in respect of locations of wounds, how they were dead. I've never seen that before. And then we saw the prosecutor himself doing interviews and making statements about telling people they think they should give themselves up and this and that. Once again, I've never seen that before either.
Here we go. We're gonna go through this together, and I'm gonna let's see here.
I'm going to recommend to the disciplinary committee.
Mr. Sims doesn't want it. He doesn't need to be labeled still worthy of being a bad man. What the hell is that? What is your motto here? Boys, inform on your classmates, save your hide. Anything short of that, we're gonna burn you at the stake? Offered to buy it. If I were the man I is, Mr. Trask, I'd show you, but I'm too old. I'm too tired, I'm too blind. If I were the man I was 5 years ago, I'd take a flamethrower to this place!
All right. Sorry.
We haven't seen that now in a few weeks, and I think people finally got the message on that. If I was the chief when that was happening, I would be extremely upset over this because, once again, you're preparing for court. And at one point, I even did an interview. I said, at this point, I think that the state attorney should be looking to maybe take over this case after hearing what the prosecutor was saying. And I think that still is something that could happen down the road, because once you make public statements about a case that's an investigation that's ongoing and you're talking about things, it could be detrimental to the case because of the fact that, remember, this is if you live in New York or Chicago or Miami and you look at Moscow, Idaho, I mean, this is like a neighborhood in those kind of cities. So it's a small place. And yes, you can taint your jury pool. And then you're going to go through the thing about people trying to say, the defense attorney saying we want to take it out of the area because they're not going to get a fair trial. I mean, it just adds all kinds of things to it.
And of course, we know that the prosecutor from the Lata County prosecutor's office basically came out and gave conflicting information about, was the house the target? Was it the people that was a target? That was a whole big mess. Before I let you go, Joseph, I want to ask you something real quick, because it is being reported that Moscow PD officers who are investigating this case are being offered counseling services. What do you think about that?
Well, listen, mental health and policing is something that has to be addressed because of the fact that, you see a lot of things, and you got to remember, they really don't deal with a lot of homicides, and this must have been a bloody scene.
Aren't they always offered that, though?
Out of order. Who the hell do you think you're talking to?
You're talking about a state, I think, that had 41 homicides reported in the entire state last year. So, this is something that is important. I mean, we saw it, of course, with Sandy Hook. We saw it like with Uvalde. Yes, mental health things are something extremely important that police officers should receive.
And the gruesome nature of these killings, right? And that's the thing that we can't forget about it.
That's true.
I've been around, There was a time I could see, and I have seen, boys like these, younger than these, their arms torn out, their legs ripped off. But there is nothing like the sight of an amputated spirit. There is no prosthetic for that. You think you're merely sending this splendid foot soldier back home to Oregon with his tail between his legs, but I say you are executing his soul. Yeah. And why? Because he's not a bad man. Bad men. You hurt this boy, you're gonna be bad bums. The lot of you.
There is no investigation. This boy has...
Jimmy.
Thank you guys for being here. Don't say any F's and stuff.
Trent, wherever you are out there, fuck you too.
Oops. Don't say any F's and stuff.
Stand down, Mr. Slade.
Messed that one up.
I'm not finished.
I gotta do for me and my boys.
As I came in here,
Don't say any
I heard those
There
words.
is no investigation. This
Cradle
boy
of
has
leadership.
Not really. This to me.
Well, when the bow breaks, the cradle will fall. And it has fallen here. It has fallen. Makers of men. Creators of leaders. Be careful what kind of leaders you're producing here.
I've done my best.
I don't know
It's hard.
if Charlie's silence here today is right or wrong. I'm not a judge or jury, but I can tell you this. He won't sell anybody out to buy his future. And that might...
I'm gonna do what I gotta do for me and my boys and my kids.
I'm your host, Joshua D.
My friend, it's called integrity. That's called
Live from the NBD Production Studios, you're in the lab with your host, Joshua Diaz.
There is no investigation. This boy has not.
Now, I have come to the crossroads in my life. I always knew what the right path was. Without exception. You know why? It was too damn hard.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for the super chats, super stickers,
Don't say
the
any
gifted
absence,
memberships, the new memberships. Thank you guys so much for being here. Danielle, good to see you as well.
On the side and worry about the boys.
Now here's Charlie. He's come to the crossroads. He has chosen a path. It's the right path. It's a path made of principle that leads to character. Let him continue on his journey. You hold this boy's future in your hands, committee. It's a valuable future. Believe me, don't destroy it, protect it. Embrace it. It's gonna make you proud one day, I promise you.